Hello everybody and welcome to some more of our FM19 Journeyman, still in charge of Troyes, who we successfully survived with last season. Now, before we get into this episode, I just want to mention that first of all, it's incredibly early in the morning for me, and secondly, my face is being weird. It just sort of aches and my nose keeps getting blocked. It's really odd. It's not like a massive thing, but if it makes my voice sound a bit weird at points, I can't do a lot about it. It keeps going quite high-pitched. I'm sorry in advance if it gets annoying. There's not too much I can do about it. I will try to edit it out. But we have made a lot of changes to the team from the last season coming into this one, and I'm not going to lie to you all. The changes aren't quite finished. The preseason got away from me a little bit. I haven't finished all the business I wanted to. It's a bit annoying, really, but the first game of the season is here, so it is time to run through the changes we have made, starting with the players who we released on free contracts. Now, a lot of these you won't really know. A lot of our team, practically all of our reserves, expired their contracts last year. Mateus was retired up here. A couple of these were on quite big contracts, like Ali Lackby down here. But the majority of them you won't have seen. The ones of note, Juan Antonio Ross, he played a couple of games for us last season, particularly when we had all the midfield suspensions. He really wanted to leave. He was one of the biggest sort of reasons that our managerial support was so low. He absolutely hated us. He's gone. Right, I've tried as hard as I can to get rid of all the sort of toxic influences in the dressing room that were making it really hard to connect with this squad. I think I've done a pretty decent job of it. Down here as well, you'll notice a few players who will ring a bit familiar. Adine Shabab just really wasn't good enough as a defensive midfielder. He was fine, but he didn't quite cut it. Hatim Farr was a fourth choice striker on about 4k a week, which for a club in this much debt, we just cannot afford. And Mantain Coulibaly is probably the biggest name there. He played quite a bit for us last season. I would have liked to have kept him, really, but he was on a lot of money. He needed a new contract, and he wanted even more money. And following on from that, I just don't think he's as good as our two centre-backs who are 4 years younger than him, or at least 3. It might be 3 years younger than him now, but now, as if their difference in ages have changed. But you know what I mean, he isn't as good as other options, and he wanted more money. I just couldn't justify keeping him, but he was very good for us last season, so credit where it's due. He was a good player for us. And, well, I'm hoping he has a successful career. But those are the players we've released, so let's get stuck into the transfers. Not all of these signings are mine. Some of them my director of football has made for our under-21s or under-19s or whatever it is. We're just going to let them fly. We'll ignore them for now, so these top 4, ignore them. From here, though, on the right-hand side, players who we have got rid of, starting with Hamza Shahid, who's been loaned out for the season. Decent looking right back, but really needs game time. If you look at his history, he just hasn't had it ever. The only time he's played is for our reserves. He needs game time. We've loaned him out. Rafa Navarro is still our starter, so he's just not going to get it here. He really needs it if he wants to develop. He's on loan at Le Mans FC, who I believe are actually in our league. So, yeah, he should be able to get game time at a decent level. Yassine El Karoubi went on a free. He was just on massive wages. Alejandro Molina was a right-back who was in our first team last season. He again was crying about game time. He again was a massive toxic influence in our dressing room. He was making players hate us. He was far too influential for how annoyed he was. So he's gone. Johan Foyal, attacking midfielder, he's not going to play over Gregory Berger, is he? He wasn't really worth that much. It was a shame to let him go on a free, really. You could have got a little bit for him, but his contract was running out and renewing it seemed like a mistake, so we let him go. Brian Bailly, similar situation to Molina, right back, not as good as Rafa Navarro, really wanted game time, was turning into a bit of a pain in the dressing room, turning players against us, things like that. So we let him go. We let him go on a free. He is now gone. Brian Pele has left the club. Like I said, I've tried to get rid of a lot of the toxic influences, and unfortunately, as sort of like the highest tier of influence, and a player who really didn't like us and was regularly coming to us with problems, with issues, and forcing team meetings, I had to get rid of him. I just did. I can't keep a player like that at the club who's like, regardless of how good he was for us, because he was a very good player on the pitch, let's not get it twisted, he was very good for us, he scored a lot of crucial goals. But I just can't keep players who are just going to turn the whole squad against us. It's not going to work out. So we've moved him on. We moved him on for 40,000. I just really wanted to get rid of him. I'm not going to lie to you. Also, the other issue with him was he was on £8,500 a week. We're in debt. We can't afford to be giving that to players who are going to bring negative consequences to the club. So we've moved him on, but he was a good player for us, and he was at Troyes for a very long time. Hopefully he can finish his career with, a good spell at another club. So yeah, we're all looking at this one. Gabriel Lopez has gone for £1 million. Gabriel Lopez played quite a bit for us when we first joined, but then towards the end of the season, we preferred the pairing of Follett and Prévost to Gabriel Lopez really being involved in that. He's a good young player, don't get me wrong, 20 years old, he obviously has his issues. 9 marking and 6 heading is poor. One thing to note before we go any further, actually, I've changed the colouring. So the dark blue stats are now 13, the light blues are now 11, and the averages are now 7. I've just upped them all a little bit because we're in a better league, it makes sense to do. So yeah, these colours should now be a bit more reflective of how good a player is. But, yeah, we really weren't utilising him. And Standard came at us with some nonsense offer that was just, this much after this requirement and this much after this amount of time and all that. I'm just like, just give me £1 million. And they went, okay. So they did. They were originally offering an offer worth that could rise up to 325. So I basically tripled that if they gave it us all now, and they said yeah. So we moved him on for £1 million. We saw none of that money. It is worth saying, before you're all asking, who have you spent the Lopez money on? Nobody. It went straight to clearing the debt. We get 0% of transfer revenue right now. Incredibly annoying, but honestly, we need to get this debt cleared. We need to make the club sustainable. So I have actually no issues with that. It's knocked out a massive chunk of it. And to be honest, for a player who was essentially third choice for us for now, I've got no shame in doing that. And actually, I think I've found a better defender in our under-19s anyway. So I'm not that upset. And then Lilian Mora, another good centre-half, actually. Speaking of better defenders, he looks like he could really develop into something. 18-year-old centre-half, he just really needed game time, and I couldn't see him getting it this season. Loaned him out. Again, he's another player who's only played for our reserves, not a high enough level of football. So we've loaned him out. He's gone to the Portuguese Premier League. Isn't the Portuguese Premier League better than your division? Yes. Shouldn't you be playing him if he's playing in the Portuguese Premier League? Probably, but he's on loan now, so we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And that is it for the outs. So a lot of key players who were sort of with us for a lot of last season and played a pretty important role have moved on. Brian Pele, Koulibaly, Lopez. I think we can survive without them though, and I think we've brought in some good players. Not these first 4, because we didn't bring them in. Our director of football brought these in. I gave him free reins on a young market on free players. He brings them in. If they sell something, they sell something. They're not on much money a week. I mean, this Luis Lafon guy, he doesn't look bad, to be fair. If we needed an emergency player, he could do a job. He's not terrible. Pierre Fay, again, he actually looks kind of rubbish, I'm not going to lie. Don't know why he bought him. He's not great. Friday John's got a wonderful name. He's not very good on the pitch. We'll ignore that fact. He can grow, though. He's only young. He's only 17. So we'll let him off for that one. Fabrice Malonga, he's alright. He's not terrible. He's 20, never mind. He's not great. I thought he'd be about 18. No, he's... I don't know why he's bought him either, to be fair. But these are the 3 who we signed. Arthur Ponte, Quentin Martin, and Dorian Marietti. I'll save that one till last. Arthur Ponte is a new centre-half. He's 24 years old. I wanted somebody who was a bit more, not in their prime, but getting towards it, because a lot of our centre-halves are very young. I just wanted someone who is a bit more familiar with the game, someone who had a bit more experience, who wasn't Follett, who's probably going to be retiring soon. He's not a perfect player, don't get me wrong, but he still has a bit of room to grow, even at 24 years old. He's got good in the 3 technical stats that really matter. He's got some good mentals, and his physicals are very good too. I'm hoping he can be an extremely positive influence for the club. Moving on from that, Quentin Martin, a right-back who we bought in on loan. He's just really well-rounded. We've bought him in on loan. Like I said, I didn't want to be wasting our young players by just keeping them on the bench all season. So I've loaned a lot of them out, and, well, now we're utilising loans as our rotation options. Again, he's happy to be that. He's happy to be a rotation option. So we're utilising him as that. He can play as a wing-back on support, which is what we use. It's his preferred role. Always obviously useful if you've only got a player on a temporary basis that they can play the role you actually play. And again, he doesn't really stand out in too many areas. He's very quick, and he works hard, which is always good. They're not negative things in any way. But he's very solid. He's just very consistent. And I'm really hoping that if we do need him, he can play a good part in the team. And who knows, if he does impress and Rafa Navarro decides to move on or retire, then we can probably pick him up. He's not got a massive fee attached to him. So Who knows, if it works out, he could earn himself a spot in our team. But for now, he's only here on a temporary basis. So, moving on from that, the big one. Dorian Marietti. You're going to see him and you're going to go, why have you signed him? And then I'll explain. So he's an attacking midfielder. Doesn't Gregory Berger play? Yes. Hold on. He looks really good. He's 19 years old. He just looks really good. I started out looking for a backup to Gregory Berger in case he gets injured, in case he gets suspended, in case he just needs a break. I saw this guy and I just couldn't say no. So we've got another really good attacking midfielder. They can compete with each other. They can sort of fight for that spot, put a bit of pressure on each other to really perform and really earn that place on the team. He's only on 1.5k a week. He's happy to be a rotation player for now. He looks wonderful. He just looks really, really, really good. They're in pretty similar moulds as well. They're both quite big players. They've both got that good jumping reach, good physicality. And yeah, they're just the kind of player who I've not really used before, but I really am starting to like. So I'm hoping he can prove why. Now, at a young age, his playmaking abilities look wonderful. 11 passing, 12 dribbling, great vision and decisions. Very good off the ball movement. I really am struggling to pick fault with him, other than the fact I wish he had a bit better finishing, but he does have really good long shots, which may actually be more important, especially on this year's game. He just looks really, really good. He's got good free kicks as well, which I absolutely adore. I can't complain. I really cannot complain. So that is it for the players we've bought in. How does this leave the team lining up? Don't panic, I've not gone mad. It does look a bit weird here, doesn't it? Let me show you why. Brian Mbembo is injured, Elan Bordas is suspended, and Gransar is suspended. Yeah, that's not ideal going into our first game of the season, is it? But once they're all back, and like I said, I am still looking at players, just for the sake of transparency, I'm looking for another left winger and another defensive midfielder, then we will have a much more familiar looking team to what we are used to. So, this is sort of what we're left with. Once these players are back, they will be, well, probably all of them actually, yeah, back in the first team. I was just going to try and figure out if there are any that weren't. Brian Mbembo's injury, by the way, broken ribs. I'm mentioning that for a reason. I don't want you to think it's because of fixture congestion, because we've played a lot of friendlies. We've played a lot of friendlies in about a 4-week period or something like that. Have you gone mad? Maybe. I might have done. We've done quite well, though, considering some of the teams we've played. I mean, Montpellier, Lyon, Marseille, all very, very reputable teams. We beat Norwich 4-1. We've done reasonably well. We beat Birmingham 4-1 as well. English teams are rubbish on this game. It's weird. But yeah, we've barely lost. We've picked up some good wins in there. I mean, a win against Stuttgart, for example, is an absolutely outstanding result. Our only defeat is to Auxerre. No surprise there. They beat us last season too. We've played pretty well in these pre-season friendlies, but you already know why I've played them all. We needed money in the club to try and clear this debt, so I packed our pre-season full of friendlies. Which is why I felt it necessary to mention that Mbembo's injury is not a torn ACL. It's not anything to do with playing too many fixtures. It's because he got tackled badly in the Lyon game. Which is weird, because you expect them to be able to play well. But no, apparently, in a friendly, they're breaking people's ribs. Figure that one out. But, well, there's a little bit of a let-off. We have our first game against Dunkerque, which, Dunkerque, I don't know. I'm going with Dunkerque. USL. We've got our first game against USL, and, well, they are newly promoted and tipped to finish bottom of the league. If we just go to the season preview here, they're tipped to finish bottom. So, even with players out, this is still a game we should be picking up wins in. Even with a not complete squad, this is a game we should still be picking up wins in. And the other thing to note here, if you take a look over to the Dream 11, you'll find a familiar name. Gregory Berger. It's the first time, I believe, we've ever had a player in the Dream 11, especially sort of since we've moved up in divisions. Well, very, 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 very impressed that he's managed to get himself into that. He's in the Dream 11, not in a role he actually plays, which is strange, but yeah, it's a good sign, isn't it? So, I'm trying to figure out if there's anything else I need to cover. The finances should be one I touch on. We've cleared a lot of this debt. We have cleared so much of this debt. When we started this season, we were at 7.42 million. A combination of the sale of Gabriel Lopez and playing an absolute boatload of friendlies has taken us down to just 2 million. 2 million in debt. I want that cleared up. I really do. I want that cleared up before the end of the season. Because if we get into League Run and we can't buy players, we're going to be in a massive bit of trouble. Now, the board have actually still been quite generous with wage budgets and transfer budgets, all things considered. We've certainly not been short of cash to spend. And I think we definitely are going to have enough to make sure we have a team which can see us to sort of the upper places in the league. And like I said at the end of the last video, my target is playoffs. I want 5th at least. Now, I've had a look into it. 1st and 2nd get promoted flat out, no drama there. 3rd place goes into the playoff final. 4th and 5th into sort of a semi-final. A two-legged semi-final against each other. The winner plays the team in 3rd. Then the winner of that gets promoted. Simple, right? Nothing too complicated there. So, I'm quite excited. I'm quite optimistic for this season. I think we might do quite well. Now, like I said, once everyone's back, we will be going back to this formation. I've also set this up in case Marietti and Berger both impress. If it comes to using that, I'm a bit worried for what's happened, but it might work out, who knows. But for now, why have those changed? Switch back. For now, we're going with this for these first couple of games until everyone's back fit. Our backup left winger isn't here yet and Mbembo's injured, so we're basically forced into it, so it's not by choice. But it's a bit of my mistake, really, isn't it? I should have sorted my team out a lot earlier. I basically spent all of the preseason playing friendlies, so yeah, it caused a couple of issues. But, well, I think that's pretty much all the major things covered. I mean, we'll take a quick look through the squad, and, well, actually, no. There is something we need to cover. The newly relegated teams. These need touching on. Not Ajaccio, they've been here for ages. Amiens, right? Amiens. Let's just take a look at their most valued player, shall we? £16 million. They've got Undelovu. I don't know how to say that name. He's worth £16 million. 16 million! That's more than pretty much our entire squad. Right? They could sell an 1/8 of him and clear our debt. Angers are doing any better? Have Angers a bit more reasonable? Have they got a bit more, a bit more sense in their squad? 13 million, 8 million, 7 million. What? Like, the teams that have been relegated have got some serious backing, some serious power. I mean, they've got Hamza Mendil. He's not an unknown player, is he? We've all heard of Hamza Mendil. So, I'm a bit worried, I'm not going to lie. I think we can still do alright, but playoffs is the goal, because I think we know where the top 2 spots are going. If we can push into there, if we can even come close to challenging them, that'll be a hell of a performance from us. But I think this has gone on long enough now. I think we can just about wrap this up. Our expectation is mid-table. I'm aiming a little bit higher than that. I am aiming for the playoffs. We've got a good squad. We've got a squad that can hopefully see us through the season. We've got a lot of options. I'm just hoping we can have a bit of success. So, thank you all very much for watching this. Obviously, as we do every single time, the first 2 games will be up straight after this video. So there will be 2 videos today. First of all, this one. Secondly, the first 2 games of the season. So, those will be up in about, well, 5:45 probably. I normally go for that 5:45 mark. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoy the first 2 games of the season, and I will see you all there for that. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, all that good stuff. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the next video.